Most people think a nuclear bomb kills in a single moment. One flash, one blast, one city gone. But that is not the real horror. The real horror is what happens next. Because when a nuclear bomb strikes, death does not move in a straight line. It spreads through fire, through dust, through panic, through silence. And by the time most people understand what is happening, it is already too late. The first thing that hits you is not the shockwave. It is the light, a blinding flash, brighter than the sun, but lower, closer, wrong. For one terrible instant, the world turns white. Windows become mirrors, metal flares. Shadows burn themselves into walls like scars. If you look at it directly, you may never see again. And if your skin is exposed, even far from the center, that flash can burn you. Not with flames you can run from, but with heat that arrives almost instantly. Clothes ignite, skin blisters, eyes fail before the mind can even process what happened. Then, seconds later, comes the blast. And it does not simply explode outward, it crushes. The air becomes a weapon. A wall of pressure slams through streets faster than your body can react. Buildings flex, then break. Glass erupts in every direction. Doors tear from frames. Cars roll and flip like toys. Inside homes, offices, schools, people are thrown into walls, buried under ceilings, shredded by fragments they never saw coming. And near the center, there is almost nothing left to rescue. Not because no one tried, but because there is nothing left to reach. But surviving that first minute does not mean you survived the bomb, because now the second disaster begins. Fire. Everywhere. Vehicles burn in the streets. Apartments ignite. Fuel catches. Power lines fall. Plastic melts into the pavement. Thousands of separate fires wake up at once, each one survivable on its own, but together they begin to merge. And when enough of them connect, the city creates something worse than ordinary flames. A firestorm. This is when the atmosphere itself turns against you. Heat from the center pulls air inward from every direction. Winds begin to build. Not gentle winds, violent ones. They drag smoke, ash, embers, and people toward the flames. Now you are not just running from fire, you are running from the air itself. Roads disappear in smoke, breathing becomes pain. The sky turns black in the middle of the day. People collapse not only from burns, but because the oxygen around them is vanishing. And then comes the most invisible part of the attack, radiation. Unlike the blast, radiation does not announce itself. No roar, no face, no shape you can see. You can still be standing, moving, helping someone, while deadly particles are already passing through your body, through skin, through blood, into bone marrow, into the cells that keep you alive. Some absorb a fatal dose in seconds. Others are poisoned more slowly, through fallout. Fine grey dust drifting down from the sky, landing on roads, on rooftops, on food, on water, on skin, on hands trying to save the wounded. That is what makes it so terrifying. You may survive the explosion and still be carrying death on your clothes. And radiation does not always kill immediately. It waits. Cells begin to fail. The immune system weakens. The body loses its ability to repair itself. Hours later, sickness begins. Days later, it deepens. Weeks later, the damage reveals itself fully. Hair falls, skin breaks, organs struggle. And by then, there is very little anyone can do. Then the nightmare reaches the place people trust most, the hospital. Because hospitals are not magic. They are systems. They need electricity, clean water, medicine, blood, working roads, staff who can arrive, machines that can run. A nuclear strike attacks all of that at once, so the wounded flood in, but the lights are gone. Doctors work by flashlight, hallways overflow. Burns, crushed lungs, radiation sickness, shock. Ambulances stop at broken bridges, generators fail, supplies run out, phones die, Cold storage fails, and suddenly, people who were never near the blast begin dying too. Patients on oxygen, children in intensive care, people waiting for surgery, not because of the explosion, but because the system that kept them alive has collapsed. That is the hidden truth. A nuclear bomb does not only destroy bodies, it destroys systems. And when systems die, people die slowly. But even that may not be the end, because if more bombs fall, the consequences rise into the sky. Burning cities release massive clouds of black carbon. Smoke climbs higher and higher until it reaches the upper atmosphere. And once it gets there, rain cannot wash it away quickly. So sunlight begins to fade, not like night, just enough. Enough to cool the planet, enough to shorten growing seasons, enough to damage crops, enough to strain food systems far beyond the blast zones. Fields fail, harvests shrink, prices rise, supply chains snap, and panic spreads quietly through places that were never bombed. The missile that destroyed one skyline begins reaching into kitchens on the other side of the world. That is when the true scale becomes clear. The mushroom cloud was only the beginning. The real catastrophe is everything that follows: the darkened hospitals, the poisoned dust, the silent traffic lights, the empty shelves, the failed harvests. Because nuclear weapons do not simply destroy places, they erase normal life. They take away the future in layers. First, minutes become panic. Then, hours become medical collapse. Then, days become fallout. Then, months become hunger. And then come the years. Years in which survivors walk through streets that still have names, still have buildings, still have memories, but no longer feel alive. Shops stay closed, schools never reopen, homes stand empty or broken. The noise of life is replaced by something quieter, something heavier, something permanent. That is what makes nuclear war so terrifying. Not just the explosion, but the timeline after it. The slow unraveling, the invisible damage, the silence that grows where ordinary life used to be. So when people imagine a nuclear bomb, they imagine the moment it lands, the flash, the fire, the shockwave. But the truth is worse, because the bomb does not end the story, it begins one. A story of fire, of ash, of collapse, of darkness, and of how quickly everything we call normal can disappear.